Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We're going to talk about a lot of different things here. This is almost like a buffet of insight. We'll call it that. And part of that is messages in music, inspiration in music. We're also going to take a look at suicide prevention, not necessarily tied to music, but it can be. And even that through the eyes of parents. And she is well qualified to do all of that, runs an amazing mental health center in Massachusetts. She and her team help so many people every day, every week, every month, and certainly hundreds, thousands in a year. It's called New Beginnings in Massachusetts. And it's so great to have her back with us. We're going to talk music and more. Diamond of the Decade, she is. Sherri Alexandrovich is back with us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Fantastic. And it seems when we got together, I think it was a week or two ago, you had shared some poems. I had no idea that you like to write poetry. There's so much for us to pull from that poetry and insight. Beautiful stuff. And then it reminded me of music and some songs. So I shared a couple of lyrics of things that inspires me along the way there. And it sounds like you looked into one of the songs I shared.
I did, yes. So, the song was In a Big Country. And one of the lyrics for me that has just been so profound was, because it's happening doesn't mean you are discarded. And that for me really resonated, because the impact of that word on so many levels, if you think about anything that's ever happened to us that's been traumatic, none of that means that we are not worthy. None of that means that we should be discarded. And none of that means that we are at fault. And so I think that so many people feel guilt, shame over things that have happened to them, especially if those things have happened by family members or by people that we've loved, or we've been told that the reason that it's happened is because there is something that we've done that elicited that. And I think that children specifically really carry that with them. And if we're thinking about how individuals internalize things, those words are so impactful. It doesn't mean that you're discarded. I really have carried that with me for the last few weeks.
I got you on that. Wow. And that's when that part comes up in the song. And it's In a Big Country by the Scottish band Big Country. Came out in the 80s. It was a top 5 hit. Really their only hit. When that part comes up about halfway through the song, it's sort of like where they break it down. And there's other lyrics go there, but that word discarded, it's such a dirty word. It just, what do you discard? Garbage.
Right.
Hit you.
Right. And so the singer had committed suicide. And if I was reading up on kind of some of the from the other band members who in hindsight had said they really never even thought about the meaning behind these words. And I think that for me was another powerful thing that I had read on the internet, because he's right. I think that people really just don't genuinely absorb the meaning behind words. I think people think that they either say them, or you're listening to music and you're listening to, the beat of it or how it makes you feel, or you're interpreting it however you want to interpret it. But, one of the things that my daughter says all the time, and she is so right, is words have meaning. Words have meaning. So if you say to your parent, I promise I'm going to be home at a certain time, that word has a meaning. Or if you say something negligent or hurtful to somebody else, that word has meaning. Everything that we say has a meaning behind it. And we never know that person who's receiving those words, how they're going to personalize it, or for them, what that's going to feel like. And those could be the last things that they hear, or those could be the tipping point for them of feeling validated that you're right. Maybe I should be discarded, or you're right. Maybe I shouldn't be here anymore, because I think people just really don't understand the importance of how words can impact you. And, if you think about even, kids at school and bullying and what that looks like and how these kids internalize every day, they're going to school and they're being told that they're fat, they're being told that they're ugly, and just a child is either going to internalize that or they're going to externalize it.
Mm.
And you really don't have any way of knowing what that's going to look like for them until you start to have those open conversations and be able to help them to understand that sometimes people say mean things and sometimes people say things that doesn't mean that they're true. Words have meaning, but it doesn't mean that they're accurate. And I think that's an important message that everybody needs to hear.
What is painful,
Very painful.
even in this song, is that when you look at these lyrics, which I'm pretty sure the lead singer co-wrote,
Yeah.
and at all concerts, including in this song, which was their signature song, he says, "Come out screaming, shout," meaning my lover's voice fires the mountainside. Stay alive.
Stay alive. Yep.
Like it's almost haunting.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the second one I wrote down. Yes.
He passed. I don't know exact numbers and dates. This song, I believe, is from 1983. He passed in the 90s. I think maybe the late 90s. But he probably was going through stuff all along there. And here, stardom with this song was huge. Especially a lot of Scottish bands don't go worldwide with big hits like this one did. And then he took his life. So you got to wonder if he was internalizing some things and then started dealing with some things. And I read about it, a couple of years ago. I don't know, recall the exact story. But it's funny in the setup of that song. I've never seen you look like this without a reason. Another promise fallen through, another season passes by you, meaning life sucks. And then the next word is shout, like shout, come on, wake up. In terms of life ain't that bad, and come out screaming.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really hard for some days to be able to get up and to be able to shout or to get out of bed or to say that today is a better day and tomorrow is going to come. And I think that hopelessness really seeps in for people with depression. And I know we've done a lot of segments on the smiling depression and understanding what people are really genuinely going through on the inside and the impact of positivity and what you can do to help to instill hope. And then I think the other piece of it too, and I know we did a segment on this as well a while back on suicidality when I had gone and done that, I listened to that presentation, and the person, Matt Griffin, who had done it, had talked about, his fight with depression and how from his perspective, he was going to take his own life to save his family, the suffering of what he was experiencing. And so I think it's really important that everybody understand that people's reasons for taking their own life are so different, and it means something different for everybody. And sometimes life is just so overwhelming and so unbearable that they don't feel like they have any other options. And the impact of that, everybody who takes their own life is a child to somebody. They have a parent. That parent experiences that loss. And the loss for everybody is different, whether it's your child, whether it's your sister, your brother, your sibling. I mean, a love for a child is beyond language. You can't put it into words, right? Your love for your children is beyond language. And the grief is so deep because the love was so powerful.
How sad is it to think that somebody could think that they're burdening somebody else with maybe their pain, that they think that they need to check out because they don't want to be that burden.
Mm-hmm. I know. And so I wrote a little poem kind of like 2 hours ago that I thought might resonate for some of the parents out there, if that's okay if I read that.
Oh,
okay.
Absolutely.
So it's called Missing Piece. Morning comes, but it does not arrive gently anymore. It breaks. and with it, the knowing that a piece of your soul is gone. The child you carried, raised, watched sleep in quiet rooms, whose laughter once filled the air, the light through the windows, no longer felt safe inside this world. We searched the past as if memories were a map. What sign did we miss? What word could have held them? What moment might have turned the night back into day? But grief has no answers, only echoes. We cannot live forever inside the question of different. Regret is a maze with no door. So today, we choose love anyway. We hold tighter to the ones still here. We speak softer, listen longer. We let their life change the way we see every fragile heartbeat. The pain does not leave. It becomes a room inside us we learn to walk through without collapsing. There will always be a missing piece, a chair that stays empty, a name caught in our throat, a birthday carried by silence. But even in the horror, meaning can grow in kindness given, in patience offered wider, in love spoken out loud before it's too late. We carry them now, not in our arms, but in our living. And every act of gentleness is a way of saying you mattered. You matter still, and your light did not end. It changed where it shines.
Hmm. Wow. That's beautiful.
Thanks.
The room part, walking through that room, I could see it, feel it, in the way you wrote it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
So I think it's important to understand that everybody has these experiences and to be kind and to be gentle. And, I have, unfortunately, a couple of friends who've lost their children, not all to suicide, but different age ranges and different reasons or causes for their death. And I think what one thing is important for us to all understand is that everybody's experience with this is different. We don't understand. Two parents who lost their children for the same cause still have their own different experience. And I think that in moments like this, we want to be able to be empathetic, and we want to be able to give a hand, and we want to just be a listening ear. We don't understand. So telling a person who's grieving or who just lost a child for whatever the reason, whether it be suicide, whether it be an accidental death, or whether it be an overdose, because I have friends in all of those scenarios and their grieving looks differently. And it is not our job to tell them what we need. I'm sorry that happened to you, or, it should be the question, what can I do? What do you need? Because we don't know what that other person is experiencing, and we don't know how they feel. And a love for a child, you cannot put it into words. I mean, you think about, I know you're a dad and you have children, and can you imagine? Those are experiences. I don't think
I almost don't want to hear you talk about this anymore,
Yeah.
but we need to, because we put ourselves as parents in that position. Like, what would I do? What would it be? And I can't even imagine it when it is suicide. Like that's is what it is. Then the guilt.
Mhm. Right. So we're always wondering, what could we have done differently? And so I just, I want to read something a little bit different here. So
Sure.
here's the thing is that, so we will always wonder what could have been different. That is the nature of love. It searches for ways it could have saved, but love is not measured by the outcomes. It's measured by the countless moments it showed up. In the bedtime stories, by the scraped knees, kisses, the laughter at kitchen tables, and by every I'm proud of you moment. Grief is heavy. And so where all our brains are wired to always want to try to understand the why. And sometimes there isn't ever going to be an explanation that makes it okay for us. So what we can do in those moments is appreciate and love what we have here. The children that were left behind, the children that we are still working towards, and making meaning out of their death so that it has a purpose. I have a very good friend of mine who lost her son when he was 16, and every year she does a fundraiser, and with that money, she does a scholarship in his name, the Blaine Memorial Scholarship fundraiser. And so through his name, she's making moments. She's making his legacy. And every parent grieves differently. Every parent has a different way of memorializing or making their child a legacy. And that looks different. And I don't think that any one of us should judge who is doing it in what way. And some people find God and some people turn against God. And I think the important message here is we never really know what's going on inside of somebody when we're talking about suicide. I mean, I've had the unfortunate experiences of one of my clinicians. It was an absolutely awful experience that we've all had to go through because we're a smaller agency, and we all know each other and we're all intermingled. And I'll tell you, he would show up on the meetings with his baby, and you don't ever know what's going on for somebody. And what I suspect is exactly what was in that song, The Big Country, right?
Wow.
Just because it happened doesn't mean that we're discarded. And sometimes it's so hard for us to move past that and not have it hold on to us, because if we stay there too long, it forgets to let us go. It's okay to visit that darkness. It's okay to go back and have those moments, because we need to grieve, we need to process, we need to cry, we need to let that pain out. But if we stay there, that darkness is going to hold us and it's going to become who we are. And getting out of that is going to become really challenging. I mean, there isn't any one of us, I don't think, in this world that can say that we haven't had days that we don't want to get up, or we haven't had days where getting up or moving forward, or the flashbacks of the trauma or the PTSD that we've experienced, or being re-victimized by somebody who has taken what are your vulnerabilities and used them against them. There are days that you can, I mean, I know even for myself, there are days I almost like your breath just catches, because the universe becomes so overwhelming. But if you can just close your eyes for just a minute and remember that tomorrow is going to come whether you want it to or not, right? So tomorrow's going to be a better day. No matter how dark it feels today, that sun's going to come out tomorrow morning. And we just have to have faith and hope that we're going to be here to see it.
That song, and not going to, don't intentionally want to focus on that song, but the more you look at it through the eyes of what we're talking about, like almost every word like has meaning.
Right.
I thought that pain and truth were things that really mattered, but you can't stay here with every single hope you had shattered. So I get from that, and here doesn't mean to be a physical spot. Here it could be this place in your mind.
Right.
You can't just stay there. Come out screaming, move past that. Right. But I love the fact that the song is it's real and not rose-colored glasses. And I'm not expecting to grow flowers in the desert, but I can live and breathe and see the sun in wintertime. Meaning, life can suck, but you can make the best of it, and you can see the sun in wintertime.
Absolutely, you can. And, I went to a hockey game a few weekends ago with a friend of mine, and the hockey team was they had made these stickers, these pins that say shoulder check. And so the intention behind it is always check in, right? Always check in on your friends, always check in on your teammates, because you never know what someone's experiencing. And I think it's really important for suicide awareness to be bigger than what it is. Because people are struggling, especially today with the political climate, especially today with the changes that are going on, with the financial struggles and post-COVID. I know everybody's tired of hearing about COVID, but let's be real. COVID has changed so many people's lives in so many different ways, financially, physically. People are having long-term COVID symptoms. People have lost family members to COVID. There's been suicide, the overdose rate, the addiction rate. Everything is imploded with COVID. And so I think now that we're coming out of the post-COVID, but we're still living in it. It's still here. This is our society, and everybody has changed because of it. People are less trusting. People are less hopeful. People are less optimistic.
Yep.
People are meaner because of all of those things.
Yeah, I like to use the analogy, rock hits the pond, there's ripples that go out, and there's, after effects of that. COVID was a meteor hitting the pond, And, to your point, I don't think there's anybody, even on the planet, that didn't suffer some after effects. Even, the things you talk about, even relationships ended, things changed. Why? People had different views of things. It was the ripples,
Right, absolutely. And people met during COVID in an isolated bubble.
Right.
So the reality of what they were experiencing wasn't real because it was this fabricated bubble of sunshine and roses, right? And then when the world opened back up, things were different because you see things from a different lens.
Do you think? All right. So, curious. Do you think that many of us were piloting a feeling of euphoria, rose-colored glasses to an extent? I don't mean just full on here, but just a little bit. And COVID made them see what is their reality, and that's where a lot of these things changed?
I think that could be a piece of it. I think it is so multifaceted, Steve, that my goodness, we could spend 3 hours just giving, I think, different scenarios about why people's experiences were so different. But yes, absolutely. I think that is one side of it. But I think there's also the complete opposite side of what you just said as well, too, is that people came in presenting a specific way and without any outside factors to prove them wrong, who they became or who they pretended to be. They got to live in that reality for longer than they would have if the world was open and there were more outside factors. And so I think that people got manipulated, people got scammed. I think there were just so many different scenarios out there. People weren't working. They were spending their time creating all of these scams to steal from people. I mean, there are just so many different ways that COVID has impacted our society. And the sad part about it is the outfall is that there are just so many people who are suffering with depression and who are really struggling to put their pieces back together. And, last week I was actually in New Jersey. A friend of mine took me away for my birthday last week, 56.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. So I was overlooking Manhattan, so I was kind of thinking of all of you guys at the radio station there. But I was looking out onto this broken, the ice at the bottom was kind of broken. And I wrote a little poem about my experience with that. And one of the pieces in it was that I think that we need to realize that even though our pieces are broken and our edges might be sharp, we can still put it back together. It's just going to look different. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have to be perfect. We can be a different version of who we are, and we can put our pieces back however we want them to. And we can shape and mold the edges so that they connect. They don't have to intertwine. And sometimes that version is different, better, more experienced, and wiser. And that's okay. The perception is what matters. It's the perception of what is our life. That's what gives us the hope. That's what keeps us going from one day to the next. That's what helps us to understand that the darkness will get lighter. It's the hope. It's when we lose that hope that everything feels so dark and so dreary and feels like there isn't ever going to be sunshine. And I understand that feeling is so overwhelming and so dreadful. And we can also sprinkle some sunshine in there if we just call on a friend or we call a support system, if we let somebody know what we're feeling, because in those moments of vulnerability, that's when the people that love us are going to show up. We just have to take that chance to allow them to. We don't have to suffer alone.
You remind me of another song, local performer. He wrote this song 15, 20 years ago. And I always remember exactly what you said there along these lines. The core is still the same, but there's a few more cracks there in my shell. Mm-hmm. And we're same person you always were, same values, same everything. We got cracks in our shell. It's called life.
Right. I mean, I posted something I found on Instagram, which I thought was pretty funny. And my grandson is 11. He's like, yeah, what was that? Of course, the 11-year-old mind doesn't understand it, but it was something along the lines of, I used to be a perfect package. Now with shipping and handling, I think I'm a scratch and dent.
Yeah. But you know what? And the package is still good.
That's okay, right? right. So that could be another whole metaphor, but look on the inside, right? Our outside might be scratched and dent and a little bit old and a little bit bruised and a little bit tattered, but you know what? It's who we are on the inside. The package is still good if you open it up, if people can take the time to open it up and look inside. And I think that's where society is missing, is we're looking at what that package is.
Mm. And also to celebrate who you are. Like so many of us, as time goes on, I've got scars here, there, everywhere, skin cancer surgery, blah, blah, blah. I used to be like, oh, hoping and nobody sees that. I don't care anymore. It's almost that's like when you get a tattoo, every tattoo has a story. Every scar has a story. Embrace that story. There's a reason you got it. And you know what? It proves further that you are resilient and you are a blanket warrior.
3,000%. I have my tattoos on my thigh are sunflowers, and there's 3 sunflowers. There's 2 dark, and then there's the light. The light's coming out of the dark. And my saying is, the struggle is part of the story. My struggle is part of my story. It is who I am, and not because I allow it to bring me down, but because it gives me the motivation and the ability to make sense of what's happened in my life. That fuels me to be better, to help other people, to be able to give something that they didn't have. And for me, that has to make sense. My journey has to make sense in that way, because how else could I make sense of my experiences?
Right.
I have to turn it into a hopeful, positive way, and I have to have forward movement, and there has to be a way of, for me, making sense of it. And similar to the grieving process, we're all individualized. We all experience it differently, and there is no right or wrong way.
I'm waiting for you to write a song that will be nationally recorded, because I've heard in just these, call them poems, amazing. In fact, you just wrote that a couple of hours ago, in a short time, and so much insight, especially the walking through the room. Wow. Amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will not be singing any songs, because nobody wants to, trust me when I tell you, nobody wants to hear my voice.
Same exact way. I mean, in my car, I think I'm pretty good, depending on the artist and the song. What's the best way to connect with you and your team? You're located in Massachusetts, but you can work with people anywhere. How do we find you?
newbeginningswc.com.
Cool. Thank you for today. Thank you for the insight and the thoughts, Sherri Ann. Truly appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I hope everybody has a wonderful week.
You got it. We'll be right back.
All right. Thank you.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.